The Hardcast.
It's time for another powerfully depressing episode of the Hardcast. I'm your host, Chris, and today I'm joined by Steven.
Kiss my deity.
And Victor.
This anime is serious.
Tonight's review/discussion is about the 1988 animated film Grave of the Fireflies, written and directed by Isao Takahata, an adaptation of the book which also has the same name. Grave of the Fireflies takes place toward the end of World War II in Japan, a tale of two orphan children, Seita and his younger sister Setsuko, and their quest for survival amidst widespread famine and the indifference of their own countrymen. So Victor, are you all anti-war now, or do you want to drop the big one?
Oh, well, that's hard to say. I mean, this anime was like really, really powerful. I mean, like it's just.
Would
like
you say
so
powerfully depressing?
Yeah, I mean.
I nailed it right on.
Depressing.
Go me.
It's just very emotional, you know. It's like really gets you. I mean, I kind of felt like crying, although you know, I don't usually cry.
Oh, were you watching it with somebody?
No.
Oh, okay.
I
could have cried.
I can tell you why you didn't cry, man. It's because you have no soul. But yeah,
Perhaps.
I was nearly about to shed a tear. But
That doesn't really matter, the whole soul thing, because I cried, and everyone knows I don't have a soul.
Oh yeah, we know that definitely.
Yeah.
Although I could have been crying because this movie reminded me that I didn't have a soul.
Hey, that's a good point there.
Wow.
But anyways, this anime, like, the first thing you see is the main character, Seita. He's, like, sitting in a...
Train station, yeah.
Train station, yeah. And he's, like, dying. Should I say it? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
What did I say? He dies. You just basically see him dying in the end, and then, like, you see a silhouette of himself, and then it's basically like a flashback. It starts, like, from the beginning of, like, how it all ended up there.
Right, his life is flashing back. He's kind of narrating the whole thing.
Yeah, so the first thing you see there is like after this first scene is like this town gets all like an airstrike just flies by and like burns the entire village down pretty much, and like they have to run away. Like Seita runs away with his little sister Setsuko.
Yeah, and his mom went to go to the shelter.
To the shelter, yeah. So then they go out and it's just everything like starts just like going downhill from there. I mean, there's some lighter notes like him.
Yeah, it's not all bad news all the time. But...
Yeah, I mean, they go out to the beach and have some fun and like try to make light of things, even though like the war's going on and you know.
And even though they don't have a house, they are staying with their aunt.
Yeah. And then like his dad's out in the war and he's like trying to write letters to him, to see what he's up to. And then
yeah, he never gets any of those letters back, but we'll discuss that later.
Yeah. Oh, and then his mom, like, she got burned pretty bad during like one of the fires when she was on her way to the shelter, I guess, or when she was in the shelter. And I mean,
looks like she didn't make it, man.
It just makes it sound like the Japanese didn't make very good shelters.
Yeah, apparently not. She was fucked up, man. Like seriously, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. I screamed. I was like, "Oh my god!" You know, to see her in that condition. I mean,
she was just wrapped her on bandages.
Yeah, let's just say there was a zombie in Japan that day. There was a zombie in Japan that day because that shit was just fucked up.
And like, there's so many things about this anime. It's just so fucked up. I mean, it was a great movie, don't get us wrong. It's just like so many things about it is just so sad.
Yeah, just they really show you like the horrors of war, but not from the point of view of the soldiers, but from the point of view of this, you know, innocent civilians who have to go through all the hardships.
Go ahead.
Well, it's more like for how aggressive it is, like they have to deal with that every day. Like if the bells start ringing, that's it. Run, you know, that your whole day you could be taking a shower, the bell stops ringing, get the fuck out, you know. You're freaking soaking wet.
Yeah, the air raid sirens start going off, and you don't know if you're next. Your house is going to be, you know, burned
you're all
next.
scared. Yeah, you're scared. You could like try to find somewhere safe. Trying to look at the sky, see where they're coming from.
It could be in the middle of the night, in the middle of the night, or you know, first thing in the morning. I mean, there's no set time, so any moment the bells start ringing, and you know it's time to get out. I mean, to deal with that every day, to know that your whole house could be destroyed at any moment, I don't know.
I wasn't thinking I was going to bring this up, but the way you are describing it reminds me of when I lived in Saudi Arabia during the Gulf War, and we used to have like the scuds going off over our house. And we had like a safety room, and it was sealed up, and we had gas masks and all that kind of stuff. And I was very young at the time, so like 12 or whatever. I can't even remember 10. And when you're a kid, war is a little bit different. You don't take it quite as seriously as the adults do, because you don't really, you know the words, life and death, and that things can happen, but at the same time, you're just a kid, and everything seems like a game to you, and you just go along for the ride.
So you had to deal with that type stuff, huh?
Yeah, now that I think about it, I hadn't really thought about it in a while. But the way you were talking about it with the air raids and all, that kind of brought it back up.
Yeah, no set time. At any time it just starts ringing, that's it. Get out.
Yep. Go to your safety room. Well, that was for me, safety room for them, and they had to go to the shelters.
Which was very hot, apparently, to Setsuko. It was very, very hot.
Yeah, she was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, she didn't like it at all.
No, not one bit.
She just wanted to go back home, but of course their home burned back down to the ground, so they had to stay with their aunt.
Yes.
Yes.
It was hard for them to there. What were you gonna say?
It was. With the aunt, that's a whole spiel we have to get into.
Yeah.
She was. Very caring, very understanding. Took them in.
Well, I think she did it out of like a family obligation.
Yep.
If it had been anyone else, it would have been like no. I think she's that kind of person. She is that. I would say she took care of her family, so I can't say that she was a bad person. But at the same time, I do feel like some of it was greed and personal interest involved. But at the same time, she did put a roof over their heads, and she did feed them. She didn't give them the best food, but her whole reasoning was, they were kind of freeloading off of her, in the sense that like they weren't going out there and helping the country, they weren't working in the factories, they weren't putting out the fires after the air raids and things like that. That's how she saw it from her point of view. And I've known people like that, and they're not bad people. It's just they're the kind of people who nag on you all the time, and you get to the point where you just don't want to be around them anymore, even if what they say is actually correct.
Yeah, when you see this movie, you might think she's like a bit of a cunt, but you just gotta look at things from her point of view.
Yeah,
she puts her family first, and it's during a war, so it's really hard to get food and get all this stuff. And those two kids, they're not helping; they're just there. You just gotta see it from their point of view.
Yeah, not everyone can be Mother Teresa at a time of war. So,
Mother Teresa, that's nice, comparison there. But for me, it's really tough to see her as the good guy.
No.
That was true.
I don't even think anyone in the movie is really a good guy. Everyone's just a victim of war.
They all just have to for themselves.
Right.
Yeah, for her to downmouth these kids. They're just kids. Yes, he's able-bodied. He's probably more fit than most of there, because he's a hard worker. He gets the job done. But
he can run around all of Japan with his freaking cart, grabbing stuff.
Yeah, man, he was in great shape, but
and his little sister on his back.
Yeah.
Yep. And for her, the stuff she says, that can mentally traumatize, somebody. She's like, you don't work anything, you don't get what you want. He's like, everyone's getting rice balls, and they're getting rice porridge, So he's like, don't worry, we'll get rice porridge for lunch. And she's like, no, you're not. You're not a hard worker, so you're not gonna get anything. Be happy you get what you need, what you have to. And then, because it was tough in the very beginning when they first moved in, he brought a bunch of food over to her. Being in a war family, in the war.
Yeah, they had more stores of food. They had all the good stuff that he had buried in the backyard before the house got burned down, so he was able to go back and get it and bring it. And he brought it over to his aunt's house, and the aunt was, grateful. But
yes.
When she actually started making the food and everything, he did. You could tell when she was ladling out the soup, she was giving all the meat and the good stuff to her family, and then she was just giving more just soup and leaves and stuff like that to them. But her reasoning, and it's hard to tell if she genuinely felt the way she felt or if she was just being greedy. But if you do take her for her word, she was trying to explain, saying that her husband's going out and working, helping people and whatever, working, to help the country during the war, and that her daughter's going out to the factory and making munitions or planes or whatever.